On the note of ego, perhaps, I've had some somewhat traumatic mediumship readings in the past that have been like
Okay.
pretty negative. Like one
Mm.
in particular stands out where I'm like, oh my gosh, it was like told me I was on the wrong path. And like I was like all of these things. And I was like, oh my gosh, what's your perspective of that? And like your advice for handling a
Hmm.
negative session or a negative reading?
I think for me, what I know to be true is that all of these messages, whether they're from loved ones, guides, whatever it is, it's all coming through the filter of the individual that is delivering
Mm-hmm.
it. And so someone might see some, and that's why it's important for me to be as neutral as possible in a reading for
Mm-hmm.
someone and really not let my own ego or my own perspective get in the way and just service the message. That's always my intention. Let me just service the message,
Mm-hmm.
not service my agenda, not service what I think is right. Just let me just service the message. And I do believe that there are some folks who let things go through their filter and they put their own spin on it or they put their own opinion on it. And I say if somebody receives a reading and that didn't really feel aligned or it stirred up something in me, maybe just poke at it, right? You don't have to take
Mm-hmm.
that as the gospel. Maybe just poke at it. Why did this activate something in me? Do I feel like it's true? Did they say something
Mm.
that maybe I didn't want to hear? Maybe I needed to hear it? Or did they say something and I really have no connection to this at all and it doesn't make sense for me? And that's okay too. But I
Mm-hmm.
would encourage people to, in those situations, just poke at that just a little bit deeper. Why is this bringing something up for me? And if somebody's not liking the reading, I encourage people to go, this is not working for me, and just stop.
Yeah. I think I was curious in the moment, and looking back, that's exactly how I come into readings now, just very mindful that
Yeah.
we're all human. We're all
Yeah.
human. It's like
Yeah.
these, you are human, although you are a medium too. It's you have your own messy experiences and your own
Yeah.
lessons, and that may come through a filter. And I think that's a really helpful way to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah. I was also in leadership in the beauty industry for out of my 17-year career, 10 of those was in leadership and also being HR in a lot of cases. I feel like because of that experience, I can receive something that maybe not feel so pleasant and deliver it in a way that we can make it uplifting and encouraging and still service the message, but leave the person feeling very empowered and leave them feeling like
Yeah.
there's optimism or hope and always that reminder of we are in full control of our life. But not everybody has that experience, right? So it's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay too. That's all right.
You do have, I feel like one of your superpowers is just your positivity. Like you're the light that you shine is so expansive and so vibrant. Like how do you stay so positive all the time? Obviously, we all have the dark
Yeah.
moments like we talked about before, but do you have any tips, tools, or practices that really have
Yeah.
helped you embody that vibrant
Mhm.
positivity over the years?
Yeah. So I'm a holistic being, right? I've got this wonderful light and I also have these shadow aspects of myself that over the past couple of years I've really focused on integrating and bringing home to
Mm-hmm.
myself because in order for me to be the most effective practitioner and help people the best way that I can, I have to make sure that I'm doing my own healing and integrating. And I think that's for me why it is so easy to shift into something that feels better for myself because I have been to those really low places and I have had
Mm-hmm.
experiences in my life that weren't so great, but I've also done the work to and continue to do the work. Like the work is never done. Like Marianne DeMarco says, healing is like laundry. It's never done.
Yeah,
And
never.
so not never. And over the past couple of years, I've really learned how to just give myself a break, be
Mm-hmm.
more compassionate with myself, shift that self talk. And for me, it's easier to calibrate to something that feels better. It didn't always used to be that way, though, Kara. If I look back at, I think around like my early to mid 20s, my mind would always go to the worst case scenario, or I would always have something to criticize or judge. And I'm not free of that by any means, but
Yeah.
it is easier for me to recognize it and shift into something that feels better.
What does that integration and embodiment period look like for you
Yeah.
right now? Because I think this
Oh,
is a really common topic of
yeah.
conversation, as I was
Hmm.
mentioning. before the escapism and materialism. How do we
Hmm.
drop back into our bodies? And what do some
Yeah.
of the practices look like for you to really integrate those
Yeah.
lessons?
For me in my journey, I had to get really honest with myself over what I was feeling, what I was carrying. There was a point in this journey where I was angry for 3 months.
Mm,
And I did EMDR, which for a lot of
mm,
people who may not be familiar, it's the rapid eye movement desensitization therapy. And I have been in talk therapy for some time, and I just felt like I was ready for that next step. And EMDR really helped me go in and look at some of those harder pieces of my past and helped me to really look at them and reframe them. But during that time that I was going through that, I was so emotionally raw, I think almost like every
mm,
day. But I'm so thankful that I went through that, because I think it can be really damaging when we spiritual bypass. And for
mm,
those listening may not know what that is, it's where you pretend like everything is great and love and light and all those fun things, and without looking at what's actually going on or what's actually there. So being present with a lot of those feelings, noticing where they are in my body, noticing where I'm
mm-hmm.
holding on to that anger, that rage, or that shame, and in reframing it for me now and where I am today, for me, it looks like meditation, allowing myself to feel whatever I need to feel in the moment. So if I get fear or if I get shame that bubbles up, just accepting that it's there. But what I've learned for myself is not to let my mind go with it. So a lot of times when we have a feeling, our mind is going to come up with the stories as to why we're feeling what it is that we're feeling. And then it's just like this never ending cycle of this happened and this happened. And instead, okay, this experience, I'm feeling fear, shame, grief. Where is it in my body? And I think that this is something that
Mm,
everyone can do, whether you have access to therapy or not, because I
mm-hmm.
realize a lot of people don't have access to therapy. It's simply just noticing if you're activated, and we know when we're activated. It's a feeling that happens in our body, stomach, chest, arms, shoulders, neck, all of those things. And just noticing, okay, where is this? What's the feeling that I'm having? Can I soften this? Can I take a really nice deep breath and soften wherever it is in my body that I'm feeling the tension or the activation? And that has
Mm.
been just a lifesaver for me.
Yeah, I've always been interested in EMDR. I've
Ah,
never actually done it, but it's been on my radar. But just somatic healing exercises, like you're
yep.
talking about, just like really acknowledging and honoring that we're not just a spiritual being first having a human experience, like we
Mm-hmm.
are a human being first having a
We're all
spiritual
the things.
experience. And we need to
Yeah.
honor this physical vessel and that there's a lot of shit going on in there. And
Yeah.
speaking to it, just like we speak to our guides, we need to speak to the child, the tween, the young adult, the our soul within. And I think we
Mm-hmm.
forget about that. And that we
Mm-hmm.
always are living up here. And I think it's, man, I am always up here. Like it's challenging for me. And I think it's really a lifelong lesson for us all to really drop into that heart center. But that's really where you can live and lead from your soul, like breathing
Yeah.
into that space and speaking to that space.
Absolutely.
You mentioned spiritual bypassing, which this
Mm-hmm.
community knows about spiritual bypassing, and we go woo real quick. We know all
Love.
about this. But
Love.
I'm curious, but I'm curious, can you read for yourself like you read for others? Can you talk to your guides just like you can
Mm-hmm.
read others? Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if I listen, that's a whole nother topic. But yeah, I do. And I've been really aware of those messages lately. And I've been more intentional of listening
Mm,
and then trusting and applying and living into what I receive. But occasionally, I love a reading. I've got a tarot reader that's here in Tacoma that I love to go see. And I think it's nice just as a practitioner, one, because I love also receiving a service and I love supporting people that do this work and do it with the intention to help heal. Usually when I see her, I've already have whatever it is that I'm going through or working through very top of mind. She just really confirms a lot of what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling. But yeah, no, I do receive messages. A message I got recently was to speak up for my inner child. You had mentioned our inner parts as well, right? And I had something that just come up in my life that my inner child needed me to say no to something that other people in my life wanted me to do, and it didn't feel right for me. And so really tuning into that and into my guides and into my inner child, and they were all saying, no, don't do this. And I'm so glad that I honored that, because the second I leaned into it and just trusted it, I felt this ease in my body that I hadn't felt in the 2 weeks that I was going back and forth and debating this thing. I do like to listen. I do like to connect with my guides. And for me, when I'm doing that, I'm connecting to all parts of me. It's the gut, like you were talking about, right? It's the guides, but then also, what do I have going on in here that I also need support with?